advertising on.
Not going to.
Makes
Or,
more money with those things.
There it goes.
I'm trying to figure out what I can
Opening power
have
options.
as interest for 4.5 million people.
Frickin' phones. Used to be you could just turn the switch. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Nisswa Planning Commission Board of Adjustment for Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. Roll call, please.
Joe Hall.
Sean Weldon.
Josh Young.
Gary Harris. Dave Reese.
Maggie Wentler.
Stephen Timblin.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
There are none.
Being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Next, to approve the meeting minutes for November 4th, 2025. Are there any corrections or deletions to those minutes? Okay. Next meeting. All right. Next item is open forum. Is there anyone present tonight that would like to speak towards something not on the agenda this evening? Hearing none, I'll move on. Moving on to public hearings, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. First item is conditional use permit application 025-25 to obtain a conditional use permit for the construction of a new commercial structure with a dwelling unit above a commercial use within the highway business zoning district. Subject property is located at to be determined PID 281-40663, owner applicant Marthala Deanna Trust, Kent Marthala. The applicant here. You can come to the podium or the desk. Oh, your staff report.
Thank you, Kent, and thank you, Chair. So we have before us a conditional use permit application to establish a couple of different things. First and foremost, commercial use on the ground floor of a proposed structure with a dwelling unit proposed above it. The nature of this use, as proposed, was inclusive of landscaping, detailing, storage, motor vehicle sales, and snow removal with that residence above that commercial use. My analysis to this proposal is that it is required for a conditional use permit in all of those proposed uses for business, commercial / retail and highway business, motor vehicle sales, warehousing, potentially as some plausible nexus to this use. And that dwelling unit above a commercial use is also a conditional use permit pathway. The application materials for this hearing have been updated to reflect the originally proposed future expansion that was not completely supported on the original submission. This commercially zoned property does have neighboring residentially zoned property on the eastern half of the north property line. The nature of commercial to residential uses requires screening to be implemented and or maintained. This particular property has a lot of native vegetation already present on the property that would suffice for that screening requirement, and that would just be something that needs to be maintained along that boundary. The proposed first floor elevation taken from the survey would place the first floor of the structure at about 1,230. There's no FEMA impacts on this one. The wetlands were estimated by the surveyor on this proposal, and a delineation was not performed prior to the application. So a condition has been proposed that that gets addressed prior to proceeding and or under a winter window for a wetland delineation to come in saying that this proposal is not going to have any impacts for Wetland Conservation Act. The proposed well has been depicted by the surveyor. This proposed structure is now proposed to have a on-site septic system. The septic design has been updated to proposed other establishment design flow. So that's been received by staff. The mandatory connection requirement to city sewer for commercial projects has been reduced to projects within 500 feet, putting this project outside that dimensionality for the point of ingress or egress to the property. And an on-site septic system will be allowed subject to state and local sizing requirements. There are no easements depicted by the applicant that would encumber the property. This property was a subject location for a proposed back edge road concept mentioned in an originally obtained Public Works memo. The city engineer has also provided materials and comment pertaining to previous concepts for this backage road. Dave, I think, brought a rendition where he tried to overlay the survey with the proposed backage road concept. If anybody wishes to see that this evening, have that available. Next would be stormwater management plan depicted on the applicant's certificate of survey. Was not an engineered stormwater plan and was requested to be waived by the applicant. So I did proceed to accept the application under that waiver. Due to the proposed construction resulting in disturbance of 1 or more acres, a stormwater permit from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency would be required for that disturbance. So a condition wrapping all of that around has been recommended that a copy of the approved permit be submitted to the city. The architectural plans do depict a power washing room, and the commercial nature of the vehicle-based business and detailing may generate waste subject to state standards, permits, and other regulation for their handling. It would be the applicant's responsibility in this case to follow all of those state, federal, or other regulatory requirements. I did put a note regarding the bituminous area in my staff report surrounding the proposed structure, that if it's to be a parking lot, then it must be designed according to the standards and section 20-188 included in my staff report for review. And that in a nutshell is my summary of this application to date.
Okay. Do you have anything to add?
No, not really. I mean, pretty much what we've discussed thus far.
It sounds like we got the septic thing all squared away now, so.
That was the last piece.
Good. Do we have any questions?
We do not.
I guess the big thing at this point is the backage road.
Yeah.
Is this? The smaller one is the same as the one you just handed, the path through here, wasn't it, the larger one?
It's pretty close. It's an approximation, so.
And that fits with the proposed development?
It looked like it would probably just nick the corner there of that stormwater.
From what I saw when you showed it to me, it kind of comes right around this and then follows the contour north if that were to be a continued plan.
So, but this site plan looks like it would be workable.
Other thing, I saw some comments on previously on the stormwater retention plan that was pond that was gonna be on the side slope. It was.
I
has
think
that been-
Retention runs,
Reworked or-
runs alongside the driveway on
Okay.
both sides.
Yeah, one retention area along this corridor here, and then a
Yeah.
second retention area proposed on this side.
Okay,
I think the nature of the engineer's comments, and shouldn't paraphrase for him, but.
That also exceeds the impervious calculation too, by, I don't remember the number, but fair amount.
Most likely in this case, that MPCA stormwater permit that you'd be required to for disturbing more than an acre is going to be more comprehensive than this would entail. So I think to put a ribbon on that for the city, we would just ask for a copy of that permit once you obtain it from MPCA.
So you're saying that a stormwater engineered plan is going to need to be done? Is that what I
So
mean?
you would be required to reach out to the MPCA to ask about their permitting requirements. I can't speak to them on their behalf, but I do know that an acre is a threshold that's reflected in our ordinance. When you disturb an area of land, an acre or more, or potentially less than an MPCA stormwater permit is required. So in this case, your proposed bituminous is slightly larger than an acre, not counting the building.
Okay.
So it's alluding to that you're disturbing it. You would also be disturbing the area where the septic system is going, and your stormwater features would accumulate that figure to be larger still, so.
Okay.
And that would be condition number 3 that I had listed as potential conditions for this.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, that's it.
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve conditional use permit application 025-25. To obtain.
Oh,
a
hold
conditional-
on. If you'd like to make public comment regarding this, application. Okay, just had to get that out of the way. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll move to approve the conditional use permit application 025-25 to obtain a conditional use permit for the construction of new commercial structure, et cetera, as listed in the agenda. All according to the findings of fact as shown in the planning report, the city report, and subject to the conditions that are listed in the staff report, and I believe there was 7 of them. And I assume one of these, oh yeah, the wetland delineations, number 2, so that would be it.
That's-
Second. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
All those approve?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item under new business is site sketch review for Northland Center. Have any representative for Northland Center? Yes. Please state your name for the record.
Tony Pohl, civil engineer with KLD.
Stephen.
All right, provide a quick summary on what we're here to review. These folks have approached us regarding a parking lot renovation for the Northland Center. This would be the facility that, just to name a few houses, the Subway, Domino's, just north of the intersection of County Road 13 and 371 there. Applicant has approached the city to discuss what they're envisioning for a renovation, kind of addressing a few different things, parking stalls, congestion that they've been experiencing, and rejuvenating the stormwater plan that they have. I don't recall the exact dimensionalities of what's existing out there for stormwater and what's proposed to be out there for stormwater, but in initial conversations, I remember that to be significantly undersized as existing. What this application would come before you guys for would be under a Board of Adjustment for a variance that would be required for this proposal, as the projected impervious would be exceeding the 50% maximum. I think the realm that it was landing at was about 65%. In order to do the adjustments that they're proposing, fix the grading and still retain the parking and the existing conditions that they have, but making the situation better for parking and for that stormwater. Tony, do you recall what the dimensions are for existing stormwater retention out there offhand?
Not offhand, but the idea we're proposing would be to improve it, increase it, by a pretty large factor. The existing retention area there now is landlocked, and that doesn't have an outlet. So if we're gonna go in there and improve it and, creating this new parking design, and I'm signing off on it per se as an engineer, I need to make sure we have adequate stormwater retention. Even though, from my understanding, it is working as it is now. This can't provide really any calculations for it to meet any kind of standards. So yeah, the stormwater would be improved for sure.
Another factor that was discussed as we were trying to conceptualize what variances might be needing to be applied for on the proposed parking lot layout was the 5% area requirement of landscaping within the parking lot area. I think proposed here, we do have some landscaping islands that were being proposed in this concept. But original conversations made it seem like that might not necessarily meet the 5% rule. And I brought forward the notion that could you propose anything out along the perimeter as a, I guess, a mitigatory effort for the landscaping requirements that we have in our ordinance if you were to apply for a variance. So that has been discussed, just kind of seeking for the applicant's benefit, any feedback that the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment may have as it relates to this proposal.
Add a few.
Absolutely.
Sure. That a little better? Okay. I think Stephen did a good job on explaining what we're trying to do here. Client came to me, looking to improve their parking area. Mainly increase it to meet their needs. Not, no, not proposing any building additions or anything of that nature, just simply increasing the parking. Just give you some numbers. Right now, there are about 45 stalls. Our proposed plan would bring it to 64 stalls. The max impervious allowed is 50. Existing right now is about 53%. And we're proposing 59%. And then, as Stephen mentioned, the landscape. Right now, depends on how you measure it, but if you're just looking internal, like existing is about 3.7%. And what we're proposing is 2.5%. Not opposed to meeting that one, but it's kind of a double-edged sword. If we meet that internal 5%, we're either losing parking or increasing the impervious. So I'm not, so I think what we have now, it does provide some breakup. And then again, there's landscaping all along the building and then along the perimeter of the parking as well. One thing Stephen didn't mention is that there is a public easement. I believe it's stated as a drainage and utility easement along Smiley Road. And proposing to encroach on that a little bit for the expanded parking. The only thing I can think of for that easement is for the drainage area or for like the drainage basin that does serve Smiley Road and some of the neighboring properties to the north and east, along with the access road on the south side. The sewer is in the street. We didn't locate any utilities in that easement. So not sure if that's part of the variance or not. Something for review anyways.
Definitely something for review. So easements are one of those things where it's like an applicant responsibility to denote any easements, to fetter out if there's a beneficiary of the easements, who they are, and whether or not that's going to impede their ability to utilize and use that easement for whatever purpose it was granted for. We aren't a title company at the city, so we can't like do that search or certify it, even if we could search it for you. But I'd be curious to see it depicted on one of these documents, and I forgive me if it's on here and maybe I'm not seeing exactly what it is. Could it be this dashed line? Do you
Correct.
happen to
Yeah,
know?
correct, right there.
Okay.
Right where your cursor is. Yeah, so if my assumption is correct, It is for stormwater. We are encroaching on it for the parking, but we're also improving that drainage basin significantly. So from like an engineering perspective, I don't see any issues, although I'm not aware of any long-range planning that the city may have for that easement. I feel like Smiley Road has plenty of right-of-way currently. Sewers in there, so again, this is something for review.
Seem to remember in conversation when we had that teams meeting, we talked about some like quantifying the amount of treatment capacity of the stormwater basin that you proposed and the amount that would be required for the impervious on the property. And I don't have the data in front of me, but I seem to remember that it was like 9,000 cubic feet of storage, for example, that was proposed where about 4,600 was required. So my, I guess, hunch would be that if that is a stormwater easement, be curious to know what the purpose was, who it was granted to. And there might be some latitude on this is doing two birds, one stone. If you're sizing it more so than would be allowed for this property, could it be possible that that might benefit the stormwater purposes that it's there for, that easement has been granted for? Be interesting to know that data. Also, some of the turf establishment that you're proposing here goes into what is potentially depicted as Smiley Road's right of way. That would, upon receipt of an application, just be something that I would ask that the Public Works Director and department weigh in on. Any further questions that you may have or things that you want to state or request information from the planning commission regarding?
No, just want to make sure we're not missing anything, any major red flags or any comments we should maybe address as we proceed with the variance application. And just want to get in front of your eyes, before that comes as well.
Do you have any initial thoughts, Dave?
Have you done any perk testing out there to see what this would be able to absorb in these areas?
No, the soils out there, the water table is deep. The soils are sand. I think we know that. We're not proposing for the design like a high infiltration rate that's higher than the standard. So for design, we'll probably use 0.8 inches, which is like a state standard for the soils. We will provide drainage calcs too, showing the area this is serving and how the basin is performing. I think the big thing is that we are improving the stormwater volume significantly, over a factor of 3 as far as volume. So.
Do I see correctly in the notes here too that you guys are pursuing a stormwater permit from MPCA as well? I see mentions of SWIP in here.
Yeah, I think we're going to be over an acre, so. Basically, we're going to have to show that this area is not flooding or impacting anyone for like a back-to-back 100-year event. So I'm not even sure what the city requirement is, maybe 5-year or something. The state is less than that, like 1 inch. 100-year event is, like a 6-inch rain event. So
our standard is a 1-inch rain event for our purposes.
But we could, if be totally understandable, I guess, if one of the conditions of the variance was to perform a filtration test at time of construction. But I'm not personally concerned about it.
One other comment might be just to check and see you know, who the benefiting party is to the easement, and then if it's to the city, which would make sense, then, you know, it's handling runoff from Smiley Road, that would be the purpose.
Yeah.
So if you were to account for, you know, some reasonable amount of impervious coverage that's a contributing factor to that
Yeah,
planned
yeah,
improvement, then we could take a look at that and see.
yeah. I think somewhere along the way, someone realized that this is a localized low area. I don't know if it was part of a Smiley Road project or how it came about, but it's a localized low area that does serve more than just this site, so fairly certain that's what it's for. And yes, Smiley Road would be included in those calculations.
Any other questions?
I don't.
Are the new parking stalls the same width as the existing ones? You haven't
Good.
changed that, have you?
That's a good question. I know what we're proposing is the minimum requirement,
Okay,
so.
9.5 feet of width and
Okay.
20 of length, I think is our standard for sizing.
Yeah, I guess we're not proposing like, 11 or 12 or something really wide. but Trying to get as many as we can.
quantities at the expense of landscaping, but
Probably
I
what's
say
that?
quantity, number of stalls is at the expense of losing some green space and some landscaping in there.
Yes, for the internal,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, if we were to increase the landscaping on interior, we'd either lose parking or increase impervious. And, or decrease and decrease the stormwater area.
the city ordinance is okay with building parking areas within the drainage and utility easements?
Really comes down to who the beneficiary is, as Dave said. If the city is the beneficiary of it, it might uncomplicate it a little bit more than if it's to a private entity. Definitely a conversation that would need to be had about who it is benefiting, what the purpose was, and does this project maybe have nexus that provides public benefit if it is just exclusive to us, so.
Which it is not.
Well, if it's overly sized and providing some drainage from Smiley at the same time, I
Yeah.
guess that's
Okay,
something to be
okay,
demonstrated.
that's
Yeah.
good.
Okay. If you have no more questions, I think gives you a good view.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Next item is the 2026 regular meeting schedule.
Alright, so I put this on the agenda under new business as we close up the 2025 season in preparation for establishing my calendar for next year. Just to provide a similar conversation like we had at the end of last year around that formation. We are still first Tuesday of the month. I had questions for you guys as it relates to meeting start time. How do you guys feel about 6 PM? Do you want it to maintain at 6 PM? Would you entertain shifting that start time earlier into the evening at 5 PM? If so, that could potentially mitigate some staff time. Wanted to talk to you guys about that and see what your pulse was, whether that'd be an option to propose for me or not. If it's a non-starter, then I guess.
What time were you suggesting?
Would 5 PM work?
5
for this?
instead of 6?
I mean, I'm open to whatever makes your job easier.
Me as well.
Doesn't matter to me.
No?
I'm retired. What you, John?
I'm here.
Okay.
that'll probably be something that I bring forward as a suggestion and recommendation then, if we can mitigate some costs and staff time by doing so, I think that's a win for the city. The other aspects of the regular meetings are submission deadlines. At the end of last year, we had a couple discussions around submission deadline requirements. The final calendar that landed had 4 Fridays prior to the meeting. Wanted to provide a staff summary of how that's been. I feel confident in that timeline, with still the same acknowledgement that it limits my ability to provide notice out in the paper. It really crunches that time of when I get a application dead dropped of how quickly I can turn that around and get that out the door. But generally this year, it hasn't seemed to have been a problem. More time provides more flexibility. But I suppose you guys don't really have as much weight as it relates to that established deadline as I do, but
How do you want it? Okay the way it is, or do you want it changed?
I think it's okay the way it is, you
Okay.
know, it really just has that impact on flexibility, so. Otherwise, my recommendation would be to leave all the same except for the start time on the recommendation for approval by city council, so.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Awesome. That's what I had for that calendar item.
Yep. All right, old business none, the city planners report.
So had another busy month here. Have about 6 permits that are coming in the doors, mainly for signs and stuff. I think the construction season is largely closed out. In the previous month, we had 9 permits from single family residences, some deck additions, fences, a sign in there, and a shoreline alteration permit. Provide this commission summary that we have posted the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment vacancy. Myself, Joe Hall, and Josh Young have hosted those interviews and have a recommendation to provide before city council for appointment of that. So that'll be coming to city council coming up here in December. To start that person's first term if appointed. That's what I have for an update from my department. A few enforcement actions that I've actually got traction on and closed out with voluntary compliance this month too, so some successes all around the horn, so.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.